Hello, guys. Thank you very much for joining me on Syriana Analysis. I'm your host, Almassian. You know me very well for a long time. I'm here to tell you the truth about what's happening not only in Syria, but now also in Ukraine, because I'm not interested in anything but the truth. And today we are going to address the allegations that the Russian Federation and the Russian army are going to blast the nuclear plant of Zaporizhzhia. I hope I'm not butchering the name of Zaporizhzhia. You all know, guys, that there was so much talk about the counteroffensive of Ukraine after Ukraine receiving so much weaponry from the NATO side, tens of millions worth of weaponry, training in different European and American countries, expertise, intelligence, money, everything. They have given everything, the NATO side, to Ukraine, and they were expecting a big counteroffensive and they were expecting cracks in the defensive lines of the Russian forces. There were none. And the counteroffensive has failed miserably. In some places, there were minor advances for the Ukrainian army, but the expectations were very big. They were expecting the Ukrainian army to advance dramatically and push back the Russian forces and corner them probably on the Crimean side. This didn't happen. And when this hasn't happened, then we need another security event to justify two things. One, to increase the amount of help and support to the Ukrainian side, probably with strategic weaponry. And secondly, to give an excuse, a justification for any potential direct intervention in Ukraine against Russia. This is, guys, very, very dangerous situation right now. Publicly, the media, politicians, officials in the West, the Ukrainian President Zelensky, they are all claiming and alleging that the Russian side, which controls the Zaporizhzhia nuclear plant, they are planting some explosives and they're gonna blast it. Do you know what does that mean? That means there will be huge radiation and pollution and death and destruction, unimaginable amount in Ukraine, in Russia, and the surrounding area. This is no joke. This is no joke. If Russia is planning to do it, I will be the first one to condemn it. And I will condemn Russia and I will condemn anyone who is plotting to blast it. I don't care who is behind it. For me, I'm not biased toward any side. However, what do facts say underground? First of all, let's see what the president of Ukraine, Zelensky, said in this regard, because let's listen what he has to say in this regard. And this is him yesterday warning of that Russia is planting some uh, explosives in the Zaporizhzhia power plant, nuclear plant, and they're going to explode. Let's take a look together.
Дуже важливо щодо ситуації на Запорізькій атомній станції. Зараз увесь світ має бути свідомий того, що спільна безпека повністю залежить від глобальної уваги до дій окупантів на станції. Росія повинна чітко усвідомлювати, світ бачить, до яких сценаріїв готуються терористи. І світ готовий реагувати. Радіація – це загроза для всіх. Для всіх у світі і атомна станція повинна бути повністю убезпечена від будь-яких радіаційних інцидентів. Сьогодні рівно 16 місяців, як російські військові повністю контролюють територію та споруди Запорізької АЕС. У різних держав світу є власні розвідувальні та інші можливості, щоб точно знати, що відбувається і хто в цьому винен. Зараз від нашої розвідки ми маємо інформацію про те, що на даху кількох енергоблоків Запорізької атомної станції російські військові розмістили предмети, схожі на вибухівку. Можливо, щоб імітувати удар по станції, можливо, у них якісь інші сценарії, але в будь-якому випадку світ бачить і не може не бачити, що єдиним джерелом небезпеки для Запорізької атомної станції є саме Росія і ніхто інший. На жаль, не було вчасної і масштабної реакції на теракт проти Каховської гідроелектростанції. Це може надихати Кремль на нове зло. Зупинити його – це обов'язок усіх в світі, і ніхто не може залишитись осторонь. Бо радіація нікого не залишає осторонь. Я дякую пану президенту Макрону за увагу до ситуації на ЗС і за готовність робити все необхідне, щоб гарантувати безпеку. Ще
Look, how can anyone watch this video and miss the lies? How can the lies be so obvious and people refuse to see it? It's just mind-blowing. This guy is lying with a straight face. And rest assured that this script that he's reading now on the teleprompter is most probably written either by the CIA or written by the MI6. And I won't rule out the possibility of other intelligence agencies, but such complicated operations are always conducted by the MI6 and the CIA. And remember what happened in Syria between 2013 and 2018 with these different alleged chemical attacks and false flag attacks there. And I'm going to come for that later. But before that, the counteroffensive failed. So we tried to explode the Kakhovka Dam. It didn't work out. There was no widespread reaction or the reaction that Ukraine expected from the NATO countries to do. And now, rest assured, the only party that can benefit from such an attack is Ukraine because they're losing on the ground and they need more help from NATO, whether indirectly through weaponry, more support, different types of weaponry, probably strategic weaponry, or direct intervention. Russia doesn't, it's not in the interest of Russia for NATO to intervene. But in my opinion, Ukraine is not acting as an independent country. Like they're not doing these terrorist attacks independently. They're in coordination with both the CIA, the Pentagon, the MI6, and the Defense Ministry in the UK. Those are the sides that control the operational rooms, right, on the ground. When the regime change war erupted in Syria, when there was joint military operation room in Turkey and joint military operation room in Jordan, who were the representatives there? Who were coordinating? The people who were coordinating together, they were from the intelligence apparatuses of Saudi Arabia, Qatar, Turkey, the United States, Israel, and the UK, and Turkey. So, of course, there is a joint operation room now in different places, and those are the people who are managing the affairs in Ukraine. And Russia doesn't win anything, and I'm being very honest with you with this. And I'm reminded by a video because when I watch this such videos of Zelensky, and I see how he is lying with a straight face that there is only one party who will be held responsible if such an attack happens, and that is Russia. And you just like excluding any other scenarios. It reminds me also of what happened in Syria when in 2012 the Obama came and said, "Oh, I'm drawing a red line. If a chemical weapon is used, then we will intervene. This is our red line." So they're just like inviting the terrorists to use chemical weapons, right? And they received chemical particulars and substances from Turkey. We all know that. And they have done it multiple times. And they blame the Syrian government so that the American side intervenes. Now the Ukrainian side has the incentive. If some attack like this happens, then the NATO can intervene. So who's benefiting from this? It is Ukraine. It is NATO. But I'm reminded by this video, and he's speaking about Zelensky. He was an advisor for the Ukrainian presidency. And the guy says very clearly that Zelensky doesn't think that he is lying because he is acting. He is an actor, and he is there acting as this tough man, and that he knows anything about military affairs. He doesn't. He's just a stooge, and he's just a puppet, and he's doing the job for the Americans, for the Brits, and for BlackRock, and for the military industrial complex, and for these wealthy people. At the end of this war, you will see that it will be the end of Zelensky's political career. He will live his brilliant life in Hawaii or somewhere on an island, probably with the other pedophiles there, and he will enjoy his billions that he made. Take a look.
Как ты объясняешь, почему главе государства понадобились на пресс-конференции такие манипуляции? Почему на этом пресс-марафоне он так много врал?
Так я же тебе объясняю, из этого он играет, он не считает, смотри, его отношение, он не соврал, он классно сыграл. Он дал эту эмоцию, Люди аплодировали. Все, камера снята. Он классно сыграл. Он классно сыграл. Он не соврал. Это сюжетный поворот неожиданный. Он всю жизнь так жил. Он по-другому думать не может. Мы должны радоваться, как он классно сыграл. А то, что там, это ж кино.
Как ты объясняешь, почему...
So this guy is Andrei Bodan. He is the former head of the president's office of Ukraine. So you see how what he speaks about Zelensky, this guy is acting brilliantly about these things. But since Zelensky is claiming that it's only Russia and Russia will do this and that, and they were going to explode the nuclear plant, what does the International Atomic Energy Agency says in this regard? Because we have the director of the International Atomic Energy Agency, IAEA, says Ukraine is lying about Russia's preparations to blow up the Zaporizhzhia nuclear plant. He doesn't say that like directly that he's lying, but he says that the Russians, they don't see that they have representatives there in the Zaporizhzhia plant, and none of these activities that Zelensky and other officials in the West are saying about this case is accurate. Let's take a look.
In Ukraine is saying, Vladimir Zelensky a few days ago said that according to his intelligence, Russia has made all the preparation for an attack on the plant, not an accident, an attack. His chief of military intelligence said that preparations are being done. Russian troops have moved vehicles charged with explosives into the plant. They've mined the cooling pond. You have a team on the ground. Is this what they're witnessing?
Well, I would never, enter into an argument with the president of Ukraine, whom I know very, very well and with whom I've been in contact regularly and meeting with him personally. What I can say is I was there. I did not see this kind of development. Our teams are there and they are reporting every day what's happening. I'm not privy to this intelligence report that you are referring to.
Right. So you don't think that there will be a Russian attack on the plant? It's not what you're seeing.
What I'm saying is that we don't see what you just said. In terms of the future, I wouldn't be so, adventurous into getting to, what is going to happen or not happen there. I think anything can happen. This is what worries me.
Right.
I think the journalist was not expecting at all that the director of the International Atomic Energy Agency would say that, and this completely refused the allegations of Zelensky and other Western officials regarding this case. But repeat a lie and you will sell a narrative to the people. And most of the people are stupid enough to fall for the same lies over and over again, from Iraq to Afghanistan to Syria to Libya and elsewhere, and they're ready to swallow it. And that's very dangerous. It's very, very dangerous, guys. And I think this video is very important. I have already shared it in my Twitter account. Thankfully, people on Twitter are a little bit more awake than the average people on the streets. Today, I was walking in Berlin and I saw these NAFO trolls. They have like a like they say in Treffpunkt, like they are meeting somewhere near the parliament, and they were doing some clownish things. Anyways, this tweet is very important from the page of Chebureki Man. So he says, there are 3 nuclear power plants on territory that Ukraine controls. First is Rivno, second is Khmelnytsky, and the third is South Ukraine. But Russia is plotting an act of nuclear terrorism on a plant under its control and possession. You could drill a hole in your head and suck out your entire brain, and you would still be 1,000 times smarter than the loons who think Russia would blow up its own nuclear plant. So this is the map, guys. We have the Rivno here on the northwestern side of Ukraine. We have Khmelnytsky, again on the west side of Ukraine, and we have in South Ukraine, these 3 nuclear plants are already in the hands of Ukraine. So if Russia is planning anything to create a nuclear chaos or radiation, they can attack these three places, right? But they're not. So the Zaporizhzhia, which is in the hands of Russia, this is where that Zelensky says that the Russians are planning to blow up, and I completely agree with Chebureki, and I will repeat it again. You could drill a hole in your head and suck out your entire brain, and you would still be 1,000 times smarter than the loons who think Russia would blow up its own nuclear plant. 100% I agree with him. What do you think, guys? Do you think there could be another false flag attack in Ukraine, just like it happened in Syria previously? Let me know your opinions in the comments below. I always follow, by the way, guys, your comments, and I try to really put as much as likes on your comments, because when they're brilliant comments, I totally learn from you as well. So don't hesitate to leave comments. Now we have Colonel McGregor, who is a very famous American former general, who spoke about this case before the last video of Zelensky, and he warned that Zelensky is planning to blast the Zaporizhzhia power plant, and he's explaining this during an interview. By the way, I invited Colonel McGregor on my show, and unfortunately I couldn't receive a positive feedback yet or an answer, but I will do my best to host him one day in the coming weeks or months. I'm very determined on that. So let's take a look what Colonel McGregor says, who is a military expert. He is a very calm person who understands what's going on there, and I think we need to listen to what he says.
There's something else lurking in the background that your viewers need to keep in mind that I think was also on Prigozhin's mind, though I can't prove it. Zelensky has talked of late several times about attacking the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant. That's a very dangerous thing, because it could conceivably radiate and cause terrible destruction thanks to the radiation if one of those reactors was destroyed. Zelensky has been pushing it. Budanov, who works for him and runs the intelligence side of the house in Ukraine, has been actively advocating for it. All the time, almost from the very beginning, there has been a concern in Moscow about the potential for a quote-unquote dirty bomb, and that this dirty bomb implemented by the Ukrainians, obviously with this nuclear power plant, could be then presented as a false flag, because ultimately people in Washington, the president, people like Graham and Blumenthal, who've just sponsored this legislation, which would trigger an automatic war with Russia under such circumstances. I think there's a fear that this is quite real. And once again, that the longer they wait to act decisively, the more likely something like this is to happen. And then you really do have a wider war, which no one in their right mind wants right now.
Yeah, nobody in his right mind wants that. But are there really people with the right mind in several Western capitals? That's the question. And I think no. And I truly believe that there are people pushing us to the edge of extinction. And this is no joke. And I'm not trying to fearmonger you, but this is a very serious case. If an attack of this sort happens in the Zaporizhzhia nuclear plant, which is in the hands of Russia, in the Russian doctrine, they have to react accordingly, because their territories that they occupy were under a nuclear attack. The leak that could come from the nuclear plant in the surrounding areas that the Russian forces are stationed will be devastating. So the Russian side will act accordingly, according to their doctrine, and this could be the usage of tactical nuclear weapons. Who wants that? Why are they pushing Russia to this direction? And who is losing underground now in Ukraine that needs he was desperately trying to cause a security or trigger a security event that leads to a direct intervention of NATO and a confrontation between the Russian side and the NATO side. Russia doesn't want that. They don't want to fight NATO directly. They're winning. They're capturing territory every day. It's Ukraine that is losing tens of thousands of soldiers, and the number of the deaths are over 100,000. This is a huge number. Remember, the Syrian armed forces, the active forces before the war, they're like 150,000 soldiers. So it's all gone if you make the comparison, right? And now they're trying to attract so many international fighters, but it's no more a fashion. At the beginning, people were like encouraged to go, and then when they went there, they saw that it's no game, and they've been used as a cannon fodder there, a meat grinder. So they left. Most of the foreign fighters, they don't want to go back to Ukraine because they see what's happening underground, and they see that Slava Ukraine is just a bullshit thing. They're losing. So they don't want to be part of it anymore. And now Ukraine, probably with some active players in the intelligence apparatuses in London and the United States, they're planning for a false flag attack. This is my conviction. I might be wrong. If there is a proof and an evidence that Russia did it, you will see me coming out on my YouTube channel and on my Twitter. I will condemn it. But I don't think so, because I believe in logic, and I believe that you can read geopolitics and you can analyze the losses, the pros and cons, and who is losing and who is winning, and who has a political interest and incentives. It's Ukraine who has this incentive, period. But there are people, as I mentioned, insane people in the West, for example. He is a British Parliament, in his head of the Defense Committee of the British Parliament, Tobias Elwood. He says, Britain should directly go to war against Russia. We are at war in Europe. We need to go to martial law. So those are the insane people that I'm telling you about.
We are now at war in Europe. We need to move to a war footing. We are involved in that. We've mobilized our procurement processes. We're gifting equipment. We need to face Russia directly and rather than leaving Ukraine to do all the work. We are now...
Guys, these people are crazy. These people are psychopaths. If any sort of direct confrontation happens between, God forbid, between Russia and the UK, it's going to be a nuclear war. And you will see millions of people dead. And do you think this guy will go and fight? Do you think this guy will send his sons to go and fight? No. The ordinary people will die. The soldiers who are, again, from the poor and the middle class will die. The rich will just get their planes and leave to a safer place. These people, I truly believe they are evil. They're psychopaths. And it's very clear to me to see the good and the evil in this conflict, just like I saw who is the good and the evil in the Syrian conflict. And mentioning the Syrian conflict, we have witnessed false flag attacks, chemical false flag attacks in Syria, because for the Western governments, when they wanted to remove Assad and wage this regime change war, they realized that after 2012, 2013, that the Syrian army is not going to collapse. They did everything, the media campaigns, manipulation, the propaganda, bribe people to defect from the army, from the government. They did everything. They killed the most important 5 to 6 generals, officers in the Syrian army, assassinated them all. They blew up their office when they were meeting together. They tried everything. And they realized that this regime is not crumbling. And then the Hezbollahs came. Iranian advisors came in 2013 to help the Syrian government with this terrorist. So they found out that no, this is something that it takes so long. They expected this to be very quick, like in Libya, and it doesn't happen. So we need a trigger. We need a false flag chemical attack, and it happened in 2013 in August in Ghouta, and they killed over 1,000 people with a false flag chemical attack, with a sarin gas. And the sarin gas that were used, it wasn't from the stockpile of the Syrian army. We all know that. Even Seymour Hersh, he did his investigation, and we found out that this the sarin that was used, it came from Turkey and probably from the stockpile of Libya. It's not the same sarin that the Syrian army has, because Syrian army declared its chemical weapons back then, and they know what type of chemical weapons Syria has. But they did it. And what happened after 2013? Obama signed this secret law, Timber Sycamore, and they started arming the jihadists. And after 2013, we saw the rise of Al-Qaeda. There was Al-Qaeda in 2012 too, but they had an extreme boost after 2012 and 2013, after these events. And in 2013, we start seeing also ISIS. How did these groups come? Do you really think that they came from a parachute? Like, they were supported. They were given weapons and ammunition and training and everything through the so-called Free Syrian Army and the moderate rebels, right? So they needed it, such a false flag attack. And when they had this false flag attack, what happened? They lost. They started sending more weaponry to Syria, and they almost toppled the government, because in between 2013 and 2015, these terrorists occupied almost 50% of the Syrian territories. And ISIS was expanding. They were on the doors of Damascus up until 2015, late 2015, that the Russian Federation intervened. Sorry, guys, there is an alarm behind me that is ringing, and it's not mine, it's from my wife, although I told her to turn off her mobile, but I'm not gonna stop now from commenting on this video. But what we have to do right now is to push back with arguments. For example, videos like this, we have to engage with the people. We have to tell them how crazy is the idea of going into a nuclear war, because they're trying to do a false flag attack now in Ukraine. And I will show you a last video that shows what could happen if there is a nuclear war in Europe. And this is from Kim.com's page, but it is shared from Future of Life Institute. This is a simulation of what could happen if there is a nuclear war. Let's watch it together.
What would happen if there was a full-scale nuclear war between Russia and the United States? Based on non-classified data, the aftermath might go something like this. When one side launches nuclear missiles, the other side detects them and fires back before impact. U.S. submarine-launched ballistic missiles from west of Norway start striking Russia after about 10 minutes, and Russian ones from north of Canada start hitting the U.S. a few minutes later. The very first strikes are high-altitude EMP attacks, frying electronics and power grids by creating an electromagnetic pulse of tens of thousands of volts per meter. The next strikes target command and control, as well as nuclear launch facilities. Land-based intercontinental ballistic missiles take about half an hour to arrive. Major cities are targeted, both because they contain military facilities and to stymie the enemy's post-war recovery. Some cruise missiles take hours to reach their target. Each impact creates a fireball about as hot as the core of the sun, followed by a radioactive mushroom cloud. These intense explosions vaporize people nearby and cause fires and blindness further away. The fireball expansion then causes a blast wave that damages buildings, crushing nearby ones. The United Kingdom and France have nuclear capabilities and are obliged by NATO's Article 5 to defend the US. So Russia hits them too. Firestorms engulf many cities, where storm-level winds fan the flames, igniting anything that can burn, melting glass and some metals, and turning asphalt into flammable hot liquid. But the explosions, the electromagnetic pulse, and the radioactivity aren't the worst part. Nuclear winter is, caused by the black carbon smoke from the nuclear firestorms. The Hiroshima atomic bomb caused such a firestorm, but today's hydrogen bombs are much more powerful. A large city like Moscow, with almost 50 times more people, can create much more smoke. And a firestorm sends plumes of black smoke up into the stratosphere, far above any rain clouds that would otherwise wash out the smoke. This black smoke gets heated by sunlight, lofting it like a hot air balloon for up to a decade. High-altitude jet streams are so fast that it takes only a few days for the smoke to spread across much of the northern hemisphere. In the meantime, Earth gets freezing cold, even during the summer, with farmland in Kansas cooling by about 20 degrees centigrade or 40 degrees Fahrenheit, and other regions cooling almost twice as much. A recent scientific paper estimates that over 5 billion people could starve to death, including around 99% of those in the United States, Europe, Russia, and China. We obviously don't know how many people will survive a nuclear war. But if it's even remotely as bad as scientists think, then it has no winners, merely losers. It's easy to feel powerless, but the good news is that there is something you can do to help. Please share this video, because the more people know about nuclear war, the less likely it is that we'll start one.
So guys, nuclear war is no joke. There are no winners, merely losers. And if you want to avoid the nuclear war, you have to push back. You have to be active. We can't stay passive. I know that most of you guys are active. We have to do more. We have to raise awareness more. We have to talk more. We have to make noise. We have to protest. We have to do everything in our capacity to avoid a nuclear war between these superpowers. And this is the day that this danger is gone. We have to go back to our lives. We have to feel relieved. What is this? Since 1 year, we're living this every single day, and it's becoming very, very dangerous, guys. I hope Ukraine, Britain, the United States don't do anything stupid in the Zaporizhzhia nuclear plant. And as I've told you, if Russia does it, if it happens, and I see an evidence that Russia did it, I will. I mean, we will probably already gone by a nuclear attack, but I will be the first to condemn. So I have no prejudices or biases here in this regard. So guys, help other people to understand what's happening now in Ukraine. Share this video with your friends. Educate your surroundings. Let everyone be educated and push back against these crazy times. I've been your host, Almassian of Syriana Analysis. If you're new, please subscribe and hit the like button and share this video with your friends. And if you want to support an independent commentary journalistic work like I do from home, I do investigation, I write scripts, and I record videos, and I do everything. I have all the softwares to bring you a quality analysis and video like this one. Please become a patron. It's very important for me, guys. The link in the description below, and see you next time.